Welcome to our podcast, Tangent Tuesdays. It is me, Yarek, and Monty.
Yeah, well, welcome everybody. We're going to be starting today off with a topic that's kind of hot off the press, as they say.
Very hot off the press.
Yeah, so hot, in fact, it might be called nuclear.
That was a good one.
Thank you. So what are we talking about here today, Yarek?
Tucker Carlson, the man himself, he did it. He went to Russia, went to Moscow.
That he did.
Went into the Kremlin.
That he did.
And probably got vetted by and touched by some Russian security.
I wonder if he got any of that radioactive poisoning.
Who knows?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out in a week or so if Tucker Carlson dies of mysterious circumstances.
Tucker Carlson interviewed Vladimir Putin.
That he did. I mean, it was a long interview, too.
2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
2 hours and 7 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a couple minutes at the beginning of it where Tucker Carlson was like standing on top of a building talking about, doing the typical reporter shit.
Yeah, I started watching it, and he immediately mentioned that he sort of cut off Putin, and then Putin was sort of like annoyed. So I don't know what to really expect when he said that, but it really wasn't that serious. And I know a lot of like articles online are like saying that Tucker Carlson gets mocked by Putin. I really didn't take it that way. Like, it wasn't like super harsh. But anyway.
Well, I mean, about the mocking, I don't know if it was mocking, but there was definitely some teasing. Like, teasing? You could definitely tell. And honestly, it was one of those things where like the way that Putin was teasing, it made me see how like I've heard analysts argue that like Putin's a rather charismatic person, and I was seeing the way he was teasing him, and I'm like, I could see how in a one-on-one conversation he could be a charming person.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Putin. I was like nodding to what Putin was saying, not in like complete agreement, just in like just vibes. I'm like, yeah, he sounds pretty chill.
Chill for the Russian president and leader who's been in charge of the country for the last 25 years.
In the context of having an interview done by Western media, like he was pretty chill.
Yeah, it was a lot less confrontational than I was well, actually, no. Now that I think about it, it was exactly as confrontational as I was expecting an interview from Tucker Carlson to be.
Really? I think also he was very loud, Tucker Carlson, compared to when like Putin responded, like the volumes of just the voice, and it just made me think of like, oh man, he's so American.
Oh my god, yeah.
He was so fucking American.
Oh my god, how did you feel about the bit where Putin was talking to Carlson about how Carlson had applied to be a member of the CIA back in the day?
That's public information.
I know, but it's just like, why was he bringing that up?
I forget why he brought that up, actually. But they were on a tangent. Dude, how about
that 30-minute fucking tangent that Putin promised to be like 30 seconds to a minute about the history of the Russian state going back to the founding of the Russian state in the 800s?
It's funny because I think like 2-3 weeks ago, I watched like a 40-minute documentary of exactly what Putin was saying.
Yeah, no,
I watched the history of Russia, and it was like 45 minutes long.
Was that like? Do you know what was on YouTube?
It was on YouTube.
Do you know which channel it was?
Shoot, I forget. Sorry to not shout you out, but it was the animated history of Russia.
Animated history of Russia. I saw an interesting series of video essays on like the history of Russia from, I want to say the channel was Kings and Generals.
Yep, it's a good one.
It is a pretty good one. They have a lot of fascinating stuff. If I'm ever in one of my war game, strategy game moods, I definitely put that on in the background. But what I was very amused about that history lesson, that history lecture, I should say, that Putin gave.
Can we dive into that history lesson? Because I want to because he uses the history as a pretext to why he's doing the war in Russia, right?
Yeah,
in Ukraine.
I thought that was really interesting because he referred back to like the 18 something or other, 1650s borders that were the historical claim borders that Russia was using to like justify their invasion of Ukraine. And I think this was actually, a really well poised question by Carlson, which was that like, okay, then by that logic, are other countries justified in trying to claim their historical borders, in which case, oh boy, Europe, you're in for a messy decade.
And Putin kind of brushed that question off.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah. He was kind of like, yeah, sure, but no, not really. It's only really important for us big players. But the history of Russia thing I thought was interesting because, like, he did a lot. I mean, he was pretty accurate about the coverage of the history of Russia up until World War II, I think. I mean, he was mostly accurate about World War II, but I felt as though, like, I was just listening to it before we hopped on now, and one of the things I noticed was that he was referring to the Poles as being collaborators with Nazi Germany in the partitioning and carving up of what was then Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. And
then he, like, tried to say that Russia worked against them the whole time, and then he briefly mentioned the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which was the agreement between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union to split Poland between the two of them.
Okay.
And he didn't really. It felt like he was whitewashing the Soviet role in the beginning of World War II on the Eastern Front.
Yeah, he for sure did that.
Absolutely.
Side note, none of Tucker never asked him any hard-hitting questions about violence and brutality that the Russian army is doing over there or have done in the war. But anyway, back to the history. I feel like Putin wants to really justify the claims that he has, and he feels that it is different from let's say Italy claiming all of the Mediterranean as Rome or whatever. Because I don't know, I feel like in his mind and in the Russian elites, they've continuously been a people. That's what he said, a state for 1,000 years, and I feel like they're holding on to these dreams, and they don't really want to let them go.
Yeah, I mean, it's holding on to the old idea of the empire, the Russian Empire.
The Russian Empire. And the changing of the world was very prominent in Putin's interview. He spoke a lot about that you can't really objectively change the world because things just happen and things move around and there's fluidity. He mentioned that Indonesia, a country of 600 million people, they're gonna start influencing the world, and he said you can't really stop that. But yeah, going back, I forget what our point was initially.
That's okay. That's what the point of the podcast is. Tangents.
Tangents, yeah, Tangent Tuesdays.
Actually, I was thinking about exactly that. I'm glad you brought up the Indonesia thing, comments of Putin's, is that I thought it was interesting, too, the way he was talking about, and he brought this up several times, I noticed, at least 3 times, maybe more, but the economic power of China relative to the United States. And he said, at least twice, that China is now the number 1 country when it comes to economic buying power relative to the United States, and it overtook the United States, and he says it's been like this for a long time.
Yeah.
I am skeptical on that. Especially given the last couple of years of data coming out of China with their economy slowing down and the population decreasing.
He used some words in there like parity of, I don't know what he said something very specific. So it wasn't like a broad general term saying that they have more money than people in.
Well, yeah, I think what he was trying to say was essentially that they have more purchasing power than the United States does.
Yes.
But I thought that was an interesting way of wording it because, when you look at things I think it's more important to look at a per capita GDP ratio and a per capita buying power.
Yeah.
In which case, the United States still ranks far ahead of anyone else.
Yeah, I think he was trying to sort of indicate that the conflict itself is affecting world economics, and he brings up China because China is important. Well, it's a rival to the U.S., and right now it's important, right?
And it's important to Russia because they're providing Russia with, for lack of a better terminology, workarounds to the sanctions. I mean, China is buying a lot of Russian oil, or trying to. Same with Russian raw commodities like minerals and such.
Yeah, so he said that American dollar diplomacy backfired when the U.S. Sanctioned Russia at the start of the conflict because at the time Russia had a small percentage of their international trade done in yuan, the Chinese currency.
Yeah, I think he said it was something like 3% at that time.
I think it was 13.
Maybe
13 or 3, but it was very low.
It was very low, yeah.
And now it's over 30%.
Yeah.
So that's massive, and that legitimizes China's influence, just economically. If Russia takes payments in yuan, so will other countries on the periphery that aren't Western, I suppose.
Or Western allied.
Yep. So I think that was a good point in stating that. Well, in Putin's like mindset, he's like, oh, Russia has always been trying to survive and work with the West, but the West always doesn't want to work with us, and they sometimes do it stupidly. So the whole interview was a justification of the war and like explanation of like what's going on in the world, and like the gist of it was like Russia is trying to be Russia, but the world doesn't let me be Russia.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. And I thought it was also interesting too that he mentioned like the idea of Russia joining NATO back in the 90s.
Yeah, that was true.
And I remember like I know that was true. And I want to get back to this idea of dollar diplomacy in a moment, but about the NATO stuff, like part of the reason why Ukraine has taken so long to be like accepted and given an invitation to join NATO is because of corruption. And Ukraine is the second most corrupt country in Europe, according to, I can't remember where the figure came from off the top of my head. You know, we need a young Jamie to do the research for us. But regardless of that, so like Ukraine is something like the second most corrupt country in Europe, and only after Russia.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, probably Belarus is up there too, but...
Yeah, but they don't count, Belarus.
No, they don't. I mean, oh my God. Oh, that's a tangent, super quick tangent. I saw this interview that was kind of fucking hilarious months and months ago.
Yeah.
With, Lukashenko, I think his name is, the guy in charge of Belarus.
Yeah, Lukashenko, yeah.
Where he was talking about how he was a colonel in the Russian armed forces.
Okay.
How the fuck can he be a colonel in the Russian armed forces if he's the leader of Belarus, an independent, separate country?
But that was before the USSR split up.
No. Lukashenko was saying in this interview that he was actively a colonel in the Russian armed forces, not the Soviet armed forces, the Russian armed forces. And your reaction right there is the exact reaction that the interviewer had. Like, what the fuck are you talking? How is that possible? Oh,
that's funny. That guy's friends with I forgot the movie star from like the 80s.
Oh my God, yeah, Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Lukashenko's friends with Steven Seagal.
Oh my God, you know, I'm pretty sure Tom Segura has talked about this on his podcast because he likes to make fun of Seagal a lot, as do I. Seagal's a fucking stupid man.
I used to enjoy his movies as a kid.
I
didn't know any better.
Okay, I'll be honest. You know, I know who Steven Seagal is. I don't think I've ever seen an actual Steven Seagal movie.
Really?
The only movie I've seen with Steven Seagal as like a featuring role in it was a movie where Steven Seagal is making fun of himself called The Onion Movie. It's the Onion News Network. It's a movie called The Onion Movie. I think it came out in 2005, 2007, around then.
Oh, yeah, that's how old.
Oh, it is, but fucking Steven Seagal plays Steven Seagal playing the character of Cock Puncher.
Oh, okay.
A man whose entire weapon arsenal is punching men in the dicks. And it's a great movie. You should check it out. Shout out to The Onion and The Onion News Network. They're pretty damn funny still.
I think. Yeah, he had some like decent action movies from the 80s. Like you know, if you don't like think about them too much, they were all right.
I mean, that's like escapism action movies, like 80s, you know, muscle bound, long haired, crazy people.
Yeah.
And real quick, enough of that tangent. Let's jump back to the dollar diplomacy stuff.
Okay. Yes.
And the thing I was thinking about regarding that was, like the sanctions that the U.S. slaps on Russians. Or on Russia, it's not really going to affect the people in power and the people who have the means to either circumvent those sanctions or ignore those sanctions. What it's really going to do is affect the average Russian and the ability to access their bank account and their bank funds. Like, I have a friend, will remain unnamed at this point, who, when the sanctions and like the banning on SWIFT were slapped on, or like about to be slapped on Russia, they were here in the States and they did a run on the bank and they just went to the ATM and took out as much of the cash from their account as they could before they lost access to it.
Yeah. I follow some I follow a Russian YouTuber. Shout out. Shout out Roman. I forget his channel name, but his name's Roman. He went through that when the conflict started. Like he went to banks, he couldn't take out his money. Then the law started coming out, and he started explaining to me, or the audience, that you can't take out money in dollar amount. You have to take it out in rubles. There was a lot of monetary policy that was swiftly enabled onto the Russian people.
Nice pun.
Yeah, swift. They couldn't use it anymore.
Nope. But yeah, I mean, like, even going further than just like what the way the dollar diplomacy affects the Russians. I mean, I don't know. I think dollar diplomacy does work if it's in the positive, not in the negative. Like, if you take money away from people, they're going to be resentful and they'll just dig in. But if you offer money to people, they'll work with you. I think that's exactly what happened at the end of World War II, when we were just like, all right, Europe will give you a bunch of money to help rebuild you. And then we built the NATO alliance around that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to look for information on Russia's GDP growth from last year, because Putin mentioned...
He did. Yeah, he mentioned that it had the fastest GDP growth of all European countries at that time, despite the sanctions. Which I guess makes sense, because they're just trying to like ramp up production of everything. Well, yeah, they mobilized pretty much entirely into a war economy at this point.
I don't think that's true. I've heard that they haven't really done that yet.
I mean, I don't think it's full mobilization into a war economy. It's at least it's definitely some form of partial mobilization. I mean,
yeah,
it was at least declared. But I mean, like, just the amount of mobilization of their military industry has happened a lot over the last 2 years. Like, they've started producing far more artillery shells and missiles than they were before. They had that deal with Iran to produce what are they called? The Shahed drones, I think.
Drones, which came out, I think I saw a report that when they buy it in bulk, it comes out to like $200,000 per drone.
Yeah, it's much cheaper than like a ballistic missile, which
is in the million.
Yeah,
$1 million.
It's like $1 million to, if not more.
Yeah. But it's still a lot more than I thought it would be. I thought they made that shit cheap, I mean,
$200,000 is pretty fucking cheap for a weapon system.
I guess, but you know what? Actually, I guess I didn't know how sophisticated the drone was. I thought they like launched it from like 5 miles away or something.
Like, no, it has a decent range. I don't know what the exact range on it is, but it's, I think, in the around.
I think it was like
100 kilometers.
Couple hundred, yeah. Couple hundred miles or kilometers. Either way, it's still pretty large range. Drone warfare, really big.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Have you seen some of those videos out of Russia?
I just saw.
Out of Ukraine, not Russia.
Yeah, Ukraine. I think I just saw a video yesterday of one of their like defense companies, which is basically just a tech startup that produced this mobile gun, like this mobile turret. It's like it's a car. Like, imagine like a little kid car with like, the super wheels or whatever.
Yeah, like a big wheel.
No. It was literally a big wheel with armor on it, just bigger, and they strapped the 40 cal, and it's all remote controlled.
Oh, drone warfare is fucking terrifying.
This is literally just StarCraft. They just, whoever produces the most drones was gonna win.
I mean, my brother, one of my brothers, my younger brother, he follows the like Reddit combat footage subreddit.
I've gone on it. It's honestly not that bad.
No, a lot of it's not that bad. But he sent me one. It was this Russian soldier being chased by an exploding drone
around a tank.
Yeah,
and
I saw that one. The footage was from the drone.
Yeah,
and so like you see the Russian guy swatting at the drone, trying to get it away, and then you see another angle of it from above, like a surveillance drone, where you just see the drone hit the guy and explode.
Yeah,
and it's like, just imagine the fucking terror in that. Like, you're just running around in circles of this blown up vehicle being chased by a little thing going bzzz.
It's crazy, man.
It is. And then the grenade dropping ones. I mean, I remember not that long ago I watched this documentary about the Iraqi coalition siege of Mosul.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing in that was back in like 2016 is when that happened, to retake Mosul from ISIS.
Yeah.
and they were talking about how like they were getting those super cheap, like $200 commercially available drones, and then rigging them to drop grenades and explosives, and that we've seen that all over Ukraine now. And I think that's drone warfare. You got to learn to find out where those microchips are so you can shoot the microchips out.
Ukraine is like developing anti-drone weapons, which is just radio waves or like some sort of signal waves that jam incoming transmission that controls the drones.
Yeah, which just makes it drop out of the sky.
Which is very interesting because prior to the conflict, Ukraine was a tech startup in a way. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of tech was in Ukraine because a lot of IT was outsourced to Ukraine from the Western nations,
like other Western
from like the US, from the EU, like IT services or
probably as a cost-effective means. I mean, the labor cost was probably a lot cheaper in
labor costs a lot cheaper, and they also are they're educated. So there's a lot of programmers and like engineers in Ukraine. Which benefited, companies in the West. They're like, they have, people that know about this stuff. Let's just send it off to Ukraine. And that's how this drone sort of industry, war industry, has been maintained in Ukraine because they already had the people that knew how to do this stuff, and then just switched to military hardware. Yeah,
I was watching a piece on, I can't remember what media organization put this out, but it was a little essay. It might have been Wall Street Journal. I feel like it would have been Wall Street Journal, about the U.S. training Army soldiers on counter-drone warfare. And they had two primary techniques. The one that you just described, the jamming, so that you can just knock it out of the sky.
Yeah.
And the other was of like a rather expensive, at least platform to build, but it had durability and use. And it was this like computerized scope on rifles that assisted targeting for ground troops to shoot down drones with a rifle.
Yeah, that's
bullets,
pretty cool.
Which, if you've seen any like footage of Russians or Ukrainians trying to shoot down drones without these assisted things, like they're just missing the entire time.
Yeah, it's again, pretty hard.
It's super tiny target, probably like a few hundred feet up in the air.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. Okay, so we've talked about diplomacy, drone warfare that's developed now.
That's all these tangents stemmed from the fucking
Carlson
Putin interview. There's something I want to talk about, and that's the. So I read it last night / this morning on the BBC, and it was talking about the Solicitor General, the Special Prosecutor report on the classified files that were found that Biden had taken with him after he left the vice presidency.
Oh, yes. Please tell me more.
So from what I was reading about it, the most damning thing in this report, like they decided they're not going to pursue charges with Biden. And then the reason they gave as to why they were not going to pursue charges was because of, quote, or paraquote, so paraphrasing, Biden's lapses in memory.
That's for real?
That's for real, yeah. And so then the BBC article I was reading, they went into arguments that after this report came out, like it caused the White House to do a sort of impromptu press release with Biden taking questions from reporters last night, where he was pretty much like going like, "What the hell do you mean? It's baloney. It's malarkey that I don't have good memory." And then he referred to the president of Egypt as the president of Mexico. But then the article went on to say that this is a problem. The only good thing about this might be that this happened 9 months before the election, so that it's not going to be front of center of people's minds when the election happens.
People are going to forget by next week.
Yeah, but the other thing, actually. Oh, yeah. And then, the other aspect of it was that they were talking about how Biden's 81 and Trump is 77, and these are the primaries aren't over, so who knows? Maybe Nikki Haley will be able to beat out Trump, but I highly doubt it. But they talked about how Trump has had his own memory issues lately, too, about how he accidentally referred to Nikki Haley, but accidentally called her Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah,
and also he referred to Viktor Orban, the prime minister or president, the leader of Hungary, as the leader of Turkey.
That just might be, they're kind of close to each other. That's just Trump. He don't know.
I mean, either way, we're stuck with like if either of these two fuckers are going to be president again, we're stuck with a doting old fuck who either we're dealing with a stumbling old fuck who keeps tripping over his own words, which I understand and I can forgive it a bit because I know he got over like being a stutterer as a young person. So
Biden?
Yeah, Biden was a stutterer when he was in his teens and in high school.
Oh, interesting.
But then, like, you know, we're dealing with Biden and that stuff, or we're dealing with Trump, fucking probably roided out maniac.
He probably is on roids.
He probably is on roids. He definitely is on some kind of amphetamine.
Yeah, dude, because he's up.
He's up all the time.
He's up like Trump, dude.
And I mean, I remember there was a report that came out about Trump getting prescribed a type of quote unquote weight loss drug in the 80s, which was essentially just like Adderall. I mean, it wasn't exactly Adderall, but it was an amphetamine of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which does explain why he's up tweeting at like, or was up tweeting at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's just I don't understand how the next 4 years are gonna play out, but
It's gonna be not fun.
it's not gonna be fun.
You know, I'm seriously considering just not voting this election cycle. Pulling
Yeah.
a George Carlin and being like, well, I didn't vote, so I have every right to bitch about it.
Oh, you know, fair point. Moving. So I have been. I follow this YouTube channel called "What If Alt History." What if alt history? He used to do videos on like demographic studies, like why conflicts happened in the past, what led up to these conflicts. He like famously predicted the Ethiopian civil war that happened a couple years ago.
Oh, the one in Tigray?
Yeah, but he took a lot of credit for predicting it. But like I feel like a lot of people predicted it also.
It's one of those things where like, I mean, sometimes like if someone predicts something and then it happens, other people can be like, well, that was kind of obvious.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, true. So recently, I think a couple days ago, or like just the other day, he posted a video saying that America is headed to a civil war, and he gave out. It was hard for me to listen. It's completely ridiculous, but I just wanted to see what this person's thinking, right? And before, he would always be super analytical. Like, I appreciated that he did do a lot of research. He read books and like he would like cite stuff and like literature. Like, just he would do the whole deal.
Sounds like though you're about to say this came off as very speculative.
This was very speculative
Yeah.
because he did use resources and literature predicting like the fall of Rome and other big empires and countries, and like what the demographics look like, what the political landscape looked like, and that there's a lot of mirrors and you know similarities here in the U.S. But then he diverges into just a very conservative, like the comical conservative, red pill, fucking like putting himself in a box and just sort of just being afraid. He never says he's afraid, but just sort of being afraid of the left. He never says he's afraid, but like he always like demonizes the left.
And he never does he ever give the same characterizations to the right?
Not really, but yeah, kinda.
But maybe not to the same extent.
Yeah. So it's just weird because like he started going into like actual like strategic maneuvering of how a civil war would look like in the U.S. and like he made this map and then
Like he made like a battle map of like where the lines would be.
and like guess where the blue and the red how does the blue and red map look like?
Well, in the Civil War map.
Yeah.
I imagine California is isolated off on the West Coast with maybe like Oregon.
So it's more detailed than that. It goes to like city county level. So he basically just put all the big cities as like quasi city states, and then pretty much the whole U.S. is just red. and the only blue parts are like the big cities, or like, yeah, pretty much it's just the cities, or then the surrounding areas and suburbia of the big cities.
Yeah, but that's
And this motherfucker.
that's not even an idea of a civil war. That's the idea of like an insurrection or a new revolution. Because like a civil war is established states breaking off from the union.
This guy's unhinged, and he's becoming more unhinged over the past 2 years. Because I used to like listen to his stuff and be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, those are some cool stats to know. You know, I'd like learn from him. But over like the past 2 years, he's gotten just red pill. He keeps asking the community if he should do a video on the incel revolution that's about to like happen or whatever.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
And then, dude, okay, I'm not even like 10 minutes into the video. This video is 30 minutes long.
You couldn't get through it.
I stopped paying attention in the middle, but like I was like, let me just see this through.
Now, as a comparison, this is a 30-minute video that Yark could not get through 10 minutes of after we had just both watched 2 hours of Putin and Carlson talking.
God damn it, dude.
Oh, fucking Christ. You know, speaking of the Civil War idea, I saw when I think you were with me, when we went to see the new Godzilla movie, they had a trailer for this movie coming out called Civil War. And it's like, what if the USA goes into a civil war again? Guess who plays the president of the United States in this?
I don't know.
Nick Offerman.
I don't know.
Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
Oh, Ron Swanson. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but like it's got, I think, Kristen Dunst or Durst. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
I don't know any
Mary
actors.
Mary Jane from the OG Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans.
Oh, cool.
So she plays like a journalist in it, and it's like the this new modern American Civil War is broken out. And you know who? I just got to say this.
Yeah.
The person. Like the two states that are teaming up against the federal government, the two big states that are teaming up against the federal government in this movie, can you guess who they are?
Two teams teaming up against the federal government.
Two states. Two big states.
Texas.
And?
Florida.
No, in the movie it's Texas and California.
Oh.
And I immediately lost all believability in this because...
No, I can see it because California
Texas and California hate each other. Like Texans have this whole thing, like, don't California my Texas.
They hate the Californians that have money. Most of the Californians don't have money.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And I feel like that's disenfranchised people of California because they never no one pays attention to them. They only talk about the big cities and the elites that live in California. But there's a lot more people and communities that aren't that.
Well, I mean, like, and going back to what this guy whose video you stopped paying attention to was talking about on the county and, like, municipal level.
Yeah.
Like, just, I mean, looking at Illinois, for example, the state we are in, like...
It was just Chicago.
Like, yeah, Chicago and the surrounding suburbs, like maybe like a county area or two, are very Democratic leaning. And granted, that's where like the majority of the population is. Like something like, 9 million people, give or take, live in the Chicagoland area.
Oh, so Civil War is going to be released April 12th, 2024.
Yeah, this year. Yep. And you know, when I first saw that it was coming out this year, I thought, I don't know how I feel about that. This might be...
this is why this motherfucker made this video, because this movie's coming out.
Probably, yeah. And he's like, oh, it's totally serious. And it's...
Okay, I'll have to watch this trailer later.
No, honestly, the only way in which I see like a legit civil war,
there's no Civil War anytime soon, folks. Not possible.
No, the only way the worst case scenario I see coming out is like radicalization from either left or right. So the communists on the left or the fascists on the right, and because they're the guy that they were betting their chips on doesn't win, and they decide to start causing some ruckuses out in like state capitals in fucking Colorado or some shit. I mean, I could see that happening to a minor
Utah.
degree. Like Utah, yeah, like some Al-Qaeda-esque insurgent style, maybe with a little bit less suicide bombings, but who knows? Commies are pretty adamant.
The commies, the right probably wouldn't suicide themselves.
No.
Yeah.
No, they have too much of a...
They have like pride or whatever.
Well, I was about to go down
ego.
I was about to go down the route of like the fucking, every life is precious, no abortion.
No, they don't care about the other side.
Yeah.
I really don't see any Civil War happening.
The only way I could possibly see like a proper civil war breaking out in the United States is if like, all right, World War III breaks out.
Yeah.
And then things are not going well for us.
Yeah.
And then someone says, all right, we're going to do a coup d'etat to get out of this war.
Yeah.
And there's going to be internal fighting in that. That's the only way I see a new civil war happening.
That makes sense because like the whole American prosperity like is in jeopardy, and
At that point, yeah.
at that point. But even then, I really doubt.
Well,
I really think like if there was to be a global conflict, that America would sort of do what it did before and unite.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it was because like we united during right after 9/11, and that unity stood for a little while. But I think because we didn't have a well-defined foe, the unity broke apart pretty well.
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
It was just Middle East Arabs.
Yeah, it was. Oh, Muslims. It's a war on terrorism. The war on terrorism isn't a war on a state or a war on a people. Unlike like the war against Japan or the war against Germany, the Axis powers.
Yeah.
But like so, yeah, I agree with you. Like the only way I see a civil war happening is if World War III breaks out and we are really not doing well. Like we're about to we lost our navy and we're starting to get hit on the mainland. Yeah. I just seriously don't think that would happen. I think our military might's just too strong for that, and I also think that that's the thing. I remember I read this article published on 38 North, this website that looks at stuff on the Korean Peninsula. Okay. Or maybe not 38 North, but 38 Parallel or something like that was the name of the website. That's
the 38th Parallel, yeah.
Because that's where the border is between North and South Korea, and these two analysts were arguing that Kim Jong-un has already made the decision to invade.
It is 38north.org.
38north.org.
Yep.
I can't remember the name of these two guys who published this, but essentially what they were arguing was that Kim thinks that if he launches a ballistic strike on the U.S. bases in Japan, South Korea, and Guam, that he could do such a devastating blow that it would deter the United States from landing and getting involved once he decided to attack. Because he would do this ballistic missile launch at the same time he launched an offensive on South Korea. In which case he's maybe making the calculation, or at least these authors argued that he was making the calculation that it would be such a knockout blow that the U.S. would be like, okay, we're not going to get involved. And I think we've talked about this before, and I've said, I'm sorry, but have you not looked at a history book? What happened with Pearl Harbor?
That's just not the American way.
No, it's that old I think it's a Robot Chicken sketch, the Little Hitler. It's not my problem. The little Japanese kid comes over, pushes over his milk. Okay, now it's my problem.
Yeah, that's not the American way. Like maybe they're just not thinking how Americans think. But if that shit would happen, I guarantee you immediately all the red states will be like, we got a full-on attack.
Hey, I know you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed being a country, because now you're not going to be one anymore. Yeah. Sure, it might take us some time, but you won't exist in a few years.
Yeah. If that shit would have happened, I'm pretty sure U.S. would probably use a tactical nuke or something if he gets crazy.
Well, if
he gets crazy,
the argument that they were making, I think, was that Kim would possibly use his nukes to target our bases and whatnot. And it's of course, yeah. If Kim hits us with nukes, we're gonna obliterate the country. Granted, crazy. I remember when Trump was in office and he used that what did they call it, the Moab, the mother of all bombs.
It was
in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing some people argue that was a show of force to Kim, because Afghanistan is a very mountainous country and they used that Moab to blow up mountain tunnels.
Oh, interesting.
And North Korea is extremely mountainous as well.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a, hey, Kim, buddy, look what we got.
Yeah, and it's not even the nuke.
Yeah, it's not even a nuke. We built it 20 years ago and we just use it now. Think about how many others we got in storage.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know about this website, 38 North. Do you look at it?
Not that frequently, no.
Okay. It's pretty just in your face about information.
I'm pretty sure it's run by analysts, so I'm not surprised by that.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other tangents?
I don't know. I kind of want to still talk about this whole Biden classified documents thing.
Yeah.
So classified documents were found, a bunch of them, and apparently he disclosed some of them too. But like the argument that they were making in the report, it's like a 300 some page report. The argument that they were making was that like, oh, we're not going to charge him because of his lapses in memory. And then the evidence they used of lapses in memory was like him getting a name wrong of a world leader, him not being able to remember when his son died of cancer.
Okay.
But then like Biden responded to that essentially saying like these interviews happened not long after the October 7th attack from Hamas. So he was distracted with, the Middle East blowing up.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, there's some argument to be had there, but I don't know about your competence, nor Trump's competence, because these are fucking
he just also moved. He also just moves. Like he just needs to take a rest.
Biden?
Yeah. Like
he does look like he needs a nap pretty consistently.
Like no, like I just feel like just 4 more years of you like really, because he's running to not have Trump run and ruin the country some more. I just don't get why they didn't find someone else. I don't get it.
I don't think he was ever interested in actually finding someone else. I think if Trump wasn't running, I think he would still run.
I swear, I don't know why I think, but like I swear when Biden was first running, there was either he said it or like someone in the Democratic team said it that he won't run for a second term. I remember hearing that.
Said it.
I remember hearing that and like that being like news.
I'm sure someone said it at some point, but I would have never believed it. I don't know. I think Biden, he's been trying to become president since the 80s or 70s.
A long time.
Yeah. He's had like this. I mean, until he finally got his actual election was either his 3rd or 4th attempt to become president.
Yeah. I wonder how he like runs it. I wonder how he's really like delegating stuff and like international affairs. I'd want to have an interview like Tucker Tucker did with Putin, but with Biden. One where like Biden shares his philosophies, worldviews, and like what he wants for the country. We don't get that. Why don't we get that?
Because presidents will claim they have better things to do with their time. That's the first reason why. And 2, I thought there's this comedian Shane Gillis. He has a pretty funny bit about Trump and Biden, and that is like Trump, we used to get like a speech a day.
Yeah.
Biden, we get like one every few months.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that Biden's trying to do, sure, but I don't know. It's one of those things where like I don't think you need to interview the person to know what they're thinking, to know how they operate in the world. I think you should just look at like what laws they passed, what laws they pushed for. Yeah,
but I feel like it.
And like I don't think Biden has a very good track record for that. Nor do I obviously think Trump does. I mean, this motherfucker got the SESTA-FOSTA Act into place.
What is that?
SESTA-FOSTA Act is this act that was pushed by Kamala Harris when she was a senator. So she essentially wrote the law, and Trump signed it into law. So bipartisanship, yeah. What happened from that was that essentially it made it illegal for sex workers to advertise or screen online, to use websites like Craigslist or other things. And before this law took effect, on personal websites like Craigslist, or I think there was another website called Backpage.com, and I think that's the one where this all stemmed from. People could have personals, like, looking for this from another person, like looking for services from people.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was like, sex workers.
Yeah.
And as a result of the SESTA-FOSTA Act, the FOSTA part is Fighting Online Sex Trafficking Act.
Yeah.
It essentially made it illegal to do that. And so what it did was it pushed sex workers off of being able to screen clients online and back onto the streets, where immediately the pimps were back out exploiting the sex workers.
Yeah.
And this was ostensibly done for the protection of
Sex workers.
of women or girls or children who are being trafficked and human trafficked.
But it just pushes things deeper underground.
Yeah, and if anything, it it reinforces this exploitative practice on the streets.
Yeah. I used to go to Queens, New York. If you guys know where I'm talking about, you guys know. But like, prostitution in New York was just out in the open. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how like more direct you can get. Like, you just go to like a location. I never use the services, by the way. It's just there. It's just there.
I've never used the services either, but I've been attempted solicitation from a couple of oh no, hang on. Let me word this properly. A couple of crack hoes have attempted to solicit me to pay them for services.
Yeah. Guess how much for a blowjob in this New York?
In New York,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna go with $30.
60.
60? Oh,
Yeah.
not bad.
Not bad.
God, I remember a long time ago. I'm gonna be very vague about this because I don't want to let people know who this is.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I knew a person who was a sex worker. They would use, I think, Tinder to screen, and I remember asking them, "What do you charge?"
Yeah.
And they said, $50 for a blowjob.
Okay.
And then $100 for everything else.
Okay.
And I remember telling them, like, you are not doing this market very well.
You could
because you could charge so much more.
Yeah.
Granted, at the time I was also reading the book Pimp: The Story of My Life by Iceberg Slim, so I was learning, and it blew my mind because, like, actually, speaking of another tangent, there's this. I don't know if she's still a sex worker, but she's a data analyst and was a former sex worker, or maybe active sex worker still. I think her name was Ayla, or she went by Ayla. And one of the things she was talking about that I remember was that the amount of violence that happens to sex workers is almost directly correlated with the amount they charge. The lower amount of money that a sex worker would charge, the higher the chances of them being the victim of a violent act.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whilst the more expensive, the more expensive one's services are, the less likely it was.
Yeah,
because you think about it, you're self-selecting based on income levels. So if you're charging outside of the realm of poverty, where you get, like, you know, Wall Street bros and shit like that coming for your services, they have a lot to lose.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to engage in that violence.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, reputation and everything. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, PSA for all you sex workers out there.
Charge more.
Charge more and you won't get beat up. Or, you know, do what I suggest to everyone, and that is respect the Second Amendment and carry a fucking gun.
That's just so crazy to me, because like I hear stories of like girls just working by themselves, like they'll just invite people over to their house. Like, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, why? I
hope the fuck you have some form of defense.
But like, even then, like, they're already in your house.
I agree.
It's just crazy. I don't know. I can't speak for the world, that world. But yeah, $60 for a blowy in New York. Go to Queens.
I've met a couple of women who I know for a fact were, well, okay, I know one for a fact was a crack hoe. The other one I suspected was a crack hoe. I know she was definitely a hoe because she tried to. What was it? I was working. I was riding my bike, and I pulled up on this spot, and there's this like frail little white woman who couldn't have been taller than like 5 foot 2 inches.
Okay.
And I mean, by frail, I mean like also no heavier than 100 pounds.
Okay.
She asked me, "Oh, what are you doing over here?" I'm like, "I'm working." And she goes, "Do you want a break?" And I'm like, no, thank you. The other one, there was this like there was these two people arguing. It was late at night. I was looking for parking.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I passed them one time. Not my fucking problem. I don't want to deal with this. It's 2 a.m. I just want to go home and go to sleep. Keep looking for parking. Go by the same spot. They're still there arguing. I'm still thinking to myself, not my fucking problem.
Yeah.
Go by. Keep looking for parking. Can't find any fucking parking to save my life.
Yeah.
Finally passed them a third time, and this time they're on either sides of the street, but they're yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this seems like it might be getting out of hand.
Yeah.
So I roll my window down and I shout to the lady, do you need me to give you a lift somewhere? She goes, yeah. She runs over. She hops in. She immediately starts on a racist tantrum about how this black guy, whom she used the unsavory N-word that we all know.
Okay.
And then she just pulled out a pipe and fucking lit her crack pipe in my passenger seat.
What the fuck? You've never told me this story. What the fuck? When did this happen?
Oh, I don't know. Like 4 years ago.
What the fuck? Why would you give her a crack up?
It was, I was...
Why'd you give her a ride, first of all?
First things first, I wasn't expecting her to be a fucking cracko when I had her get in my car, and after she lit her fucking pipe, I was like, you're getting out of my fucking car.
She just needs a hit.
Just a hit.
De-stress.
God. A hit and a racist tirade.
Yeah.
That's what she needed.
What the fuck?
I know. And then I remember she was telling me about how she had a daughter.
Yeah.
Who lived like out in the suburbs, and she was staying at her friend's place in the city. And I'm like, okay, where is this place? I will drop you off there, and then I'm going to leave you the fuck alone.
Yeah.
I dropped her off, and she was not far from where I was living at the time, which made me not comfortable.
Okay. That's crazy. You just took a stranger in.
Everyone's a stranger until you get to know them. Granted, I got to know this stranger, and she was a cracko.
I know, but this was like adverse situation.
Yeah, true. And I wasn't armed at that point.
Yeah.
I didn't have my gun yet.
You were a white knight.
Oh my god. And it kind of runs in the family a bit. My older brother's a bit of a white knight too.
Yeah, that's all right. Sometimes it's all right.
See, I was a white knight up until the point she started smoking crack in my car, and then I was just a knight. And I was like, please leave. Yeah, please leave.
Yeah. I had not a similar story, but one time, I think this was 2018, 2019. I was walking home after hanging out with a friend of mine, and it was a long walk 'cause, I didn't want to really take CTA, and it was like, I'm just going to walk home. It's going to be like an hour walk. Anyway, walking home, I passed this overpass, and passing the bridge, I see like a lady on my left, on my periphery to my left, across the street from me, and she looks scared and shocked. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why do you look like that? Why do you give me that feeling? And then I keep walking, and I see like some legs poking out of a car. And I'm like, all right, that looks like you're just working on the car. That's what it looked like to me immediately.
Like poking out from where of the car?
Like if you're working under the car and you're
okay, her legs were poking out from underneath the car.
Yeah.
I was imagining like some person's legs sticking out of like the side, the window, or like an open door, or like a trunk, which would be alarming.
Yeah, like I felt like this person was like taking a look, like something mechanically wrong with the car, right? Mm-hmm. On the ground, and then I get closer. I'm like, oh, they're not under the car. They're like to the side of the car, and there's a person on top of another person, and the person underneath is a woman, and the person on top is a guy. And that's why the lady to my left was looking fucking horrified.
Because she was unprepared for that sight.
Yeah, they weren't fucking, they were arguing. And granted, I'm pretty high because I just hung out with my friend.
Oh, at this point.
At this point, I'm like super high.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I mean, I'm walking literally like 5 feet from you. And so, like, I don't step out immediately in front of them. I like go like a car up ahead, just to give myself some distance. And I say hello, and then the guy was like, He's like, yeah, man, don't worry about this. This is what happens when you get hurt. He's like, I've been hurt so much, and I'm just kind of standing there. He keeps going on. I'm like, yeah, but you gotta understand, this looks terrible.
Did you only hear his voice?
Pretty much.
Did you hear anything from her?
No, she was alive.
Okay, well, was she alive? Yeah, is one thing.
No,
was she conscious?
She was like conscious.
Okay, because
yeah.
it's just the way that he said, "Oh, you don't know what happens when you get hurt," made me think like, "Oh, he just like knocked her over the head."
Yeah, no, they were both pretty conscious.
Maybe just a little strung out.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of listening to this guy, and like I'm trying to like just kind of make him realize what the fuck is what are you doing? This is like it was on what's it called? It was on Foster Avenue or Lawrence, I think. It was either Lawrence or Foster.
I would not be surprised if it was Lawrence.
I think it was Lawrence.
I mean, speaking of Lawrence,
but it was right next to the highway, so like.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm like kind of talking to this guy, saying like, this looks bad. There's cars driving by. I'm like, look what you're doing. And then like another car stops because like they see me interjecting, so they also interject. And it was like this old lady. She's like, "Are you guys okay?" And I'm like, I didn't say anything actually, but like the guy also said like, we're angry or something. I don't know. So the lady like pulls to the side and like is stopping traffic. Now it's a whole scene. Apparently, someone had already called the police, and he was behind me, like several cars down.
The person who called the police? Or?
Yeah, because like I was talking to the guy that was like assaulting the girl, and he told me like someone already called police, and then he pointed down the street, and there was this like older man, probably like 50s, 60s, who had already called the police. He was waiting by his car and also trying to not get close. And then the police shows up, like a squad car pulls up, but they weren't the police that was called. They were just a squad car that was like, they were just on patrol, just driving around. And like I flagged them down. I'm like, hey, can you fucking help here? They get, cops gets out, makes the guy stand up. Then the girl stands up. The girl's fucking like twice the size of this guy.
The girl?
The girl was like a linebacker. And this dude, he was just normal.
Was
size,
like a jockey?
He was just normal sized dude. But like this girl was big. Like big.
Like we talking...
She was tall and big.
Tall and big? Okay,
yeah.
okay. So she was like...
she was
like,
just big.
Like she should shop at Big and Tall?
Yeah. Yeah, she was a big human being.
Okay, all right.
And he was just a normal sized man. And I found it hilarious.
Oh my god, I have a horrible
and then I
story
laughed.
that reminded me of years and years and years ago. It might be like over a decade ago, or about a decade ago. I was dating this person, and a friend of theirs was a rather average height, like my height woman, but quite overweight.
Okay.
Maybe on the border of being obese, if not technically obese.
Okay.
And her boyfriend was tall and a twig.
Okay.
Very skinny.
Yeah.
And my friend, her dad came to visit, and he saw this, and he was just like, how does that work?
The girl just has to accept that she's not a dainty flower. That's how that works.
I don't think he meant it like that. I think he meant, how does that work logistically?
Oh. I feel like the same premise.
Yeah.
It's still there. She just has to accept that she's not a dainty flower.
Oh my god.
Yeah. All right.
We talked about, we've been going for like a little over an hour now.
Yeah. I guess we can summarize what we've talked and just...
we spent a lot of time on Putin and Carlson.
Which I think, honestly, if you're interested in the perspective of Russia and how this conflict sort of initialized, you can see for yourself what he has to say. I think it's an interesting talk, and you have to come at it analytically and sort of just take things with a grain of salt, and also just try to understand that he also made some good points, Putin, because the U.S. isn't this, like, I don't know, like,
I was just gonna say, maybe not a grain of salt, maybe like a heaping of salt.
oh yeah, a heaping of salt, but also
I think it would be useful if any of the listeners decide to actually go and watch and listen to this. It's useful to have a cursory understanding of Russian history going into it.
yeah, but if you don't, Putin's got you. He did that on purpose.
Oh my God. Let me take 30 seconds to a minute to explain.
No,
35 minutes later.
He didn't say that.
He did at the beginning. He did say, I'm going to just do 30 seconds, maybe a minute, right at the beginning.
No.
Oh, yes, he did.
He said, I'll take some time.
After he initially said 30 seconds to a minute.
I'll have to rewatch that.
I know. It was a lot of information.
I know. I was low-key, honestly, kind of proud of myself that I was like, I know what you're saying, dude. I know Russian history.
right. You know, it would be interesting, though, to, like, because I wonder how much is lost in translation.
Yeah, but I think whoever did the translating did a good job.
I think they did, too. But again, like, everyone translates based on different connotations. Like, every word means something different to different people.
Yeah, true.
So I would wonder, like, I would like to see multiple people translate it. Obviously, I wouldn't watch all that. That'd take too much time. But maybe I'd, like, get me some translated transcripts of what he was saying.
Yeah.
Just to see the different perspectives on things.
Yeah, I think I got what I needed.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not that interested in doing it.
From, like, his demeanor, I feel like, yeah,
what did you feel? What did you think about his demeanor in that interview? Both demeanors of Putin and Carlson. Also, I love that Carlson had his perpetual scrunch face.
I saw on Reddit when his face looks like he's watching someone eat mayonnaise from the jar. That's what his face looks like.
I was gonna say, I mean, to me, it's always looked like perpetual poop face.
Yeah.
Like he's just, like, he knows he has to poop, but it's not there yet. But it will be in the next 5 minutes, forever.
I never really cared about his, I don't know, like, facial expressions. So,
but let's ignore Carlson. What did you think about the demeanor of Putin in that?
I thought Putin was pretty relaxed. I actually took notice, I think halfway through the interview, that Tucker was a little nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he was breathing a little faster, but he was trying to keep it, like, quiet. And just a little bit on edge.
It's understandable, though.
It's perfectly understandable. I mean, you're in the fucking Kremlin.
You're in the Kremlin with Putin, who is pretty well known to assassinate people.
Yeah.
I mean, you better watch out which flight you book on the way home.
Yeah.
Not Prigozhin Airlines.
I thought it was very cordial. Like, I didn't really think it was this, I don't know, the media and articles are making it seem like Tucker got, like, destroyed. He got mocked. He went to visit his idol and it destroyed his dreams or whatever. I think it was cordial and as straightforward as a Russian Putin interview would go.
I think so too, but I also think it was pretty clear, based on the body language, who felt more comfortable. Obviously Putin, and for obvious reasons.
He's fucking Putin.
He's Putin and he's in the Kremlin, and this guy came to see him. But also, I don't know, it just felt like his body language was very, in a passive way, dominating in the interview.
Yeah, he was just kind of like slouched back,
he was leaning
forward.
a little bit
to
the side. If he was really trying to get a point, he'd lean forward, but in like a scrunched way.
Yeah.
Although it's also important to remember he's a tiny man. I mean, neither of us are, pinnacles of height. But
Yeah, we're not large men.
no. What are you, like 5'6"?
5'6", yeah.
All right, so he's the average.
5'7".
I know he's the average of our heights. I'm about 5'8".
Putin's 5'7", and he wears 2-inch shoes, so he's 5'9".
When he's wearing the shoes.
Yeah.
Isn't Kim Jong Un? I almost said Kim Jong Il. I know he's been dead for a while. Kim Jong Un, isn't he 5'7" too?
Let me see. How tall is Kim Jong Un? Come on, Google. Give me straight answers. What the fuck? Five seven, yeah.
What about the leader of Iran? What are the other big flashpoints that we're thinking about might happen in this decade? Actually, I'm not going to say century.
Fuck this. Oh,
this decade. I mean, there's a lot that's happened in this decade.
I know,
so
but
far.
we can.
Pandemic that came out of China.
I know, but let's just stick to this year.
Just this. Wait, this year, as in 2024, or this last year?
No, 2024.
It's only been a month.
I know.
Or do you mean what's going to happen this year?
Yeah. Oh wait, back to Putin.
Oh wait, doesn't Russia have an election this year too?
Yeah, but the opposition got denied.
Right, I saw that the opposition candidate was barred from running.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. But it's not surprising.
Oh, you know what? Speaking on this subject matter, and I know it's a bit of a digression from Putin, but how about I'm only getting to this tangent because of that guy being barred from participating in the election in Russia. How about this Supreme Court case now reviewing whether or not Colorado can bar Trump from the ballot?
I haven't heard about that.
Well, they had oral arguments yesterday, and it sounds like the justices are skeptical about whether or not the Colorado can bar him from running for president. Yeah. Because the argument is that Colorado's invoking Article 3 or the provision of the Constitution that prevents people who have engaged in insurrection from holding an office of the presidency. And it seems to me that in the Supreme Court that the two things they're taking a look at is they're not even looking at the idea of whether or not Trump engaged in insurrection or whether or not this was an insurrection. Yeah. Because Trump's legal team's arguing it's not an insurrection, it was a riot, which that's a funny distinction. He didn't take part in an insurrection, he just took part in a riot. But the other thing that I think is worrisome about this is the fact that the Supreme Court is debating whether or not the President of the United States counts as an office or an officer of the United States. A senator is an officer of the United States, but the president might not be. That kind of puts the role of the president outside of the realm of law in some regards. Although it was nice to see that an appellate court recently told Trump that you don't have presidential immunity.
Yeah. Honestly, dude.
But that's going to go to the Supreme Court itself.
Oh, is it?
Of course it is. Trump's going to appeal that. Because he really wants that immunity.
What a motherfucker. Side note, we were talking about, you were asking how tall is the supreme leader of Iran?
Or the president, I was actually thinking. Not so much the Ayatollah.
Oh, well, the Ayatollah is fucking 84 years old.
Yeah, I know. He's ancient.
So, Biden's 81.
Yeah. But that guy's not the president. He's more like the religious leader.
I don't fucking know who the president of Iran is.
I don't know his name either.
President of Iran is Ebrahim Raisi. How
tall is he?
I don't fucking know, dude. It's not on the fucking first instance of his name. 5'7".
The axis. The axis of 5'7".
Kim Jong-un. They ran
Vladimir
president,
Putin.
but they're all 5'7".
They're all 5'7". And they're all kind of working together. I mean, Iran's given Russia the drones, and North Korea's given Russia the artillery shells.
Yeah. That's
that 5'7" club.
5'7" club, dude. That's funny. Okay.
$5 foot long.
So to close off, we went over Putin and Tucker, his demeanor,
The whole fucking interview.
I said go watch it. It's pretty intriguing.
We were both entertained by it.
Oh yeah, that's the word we used. I was very entertained.
As was I.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about the Nord Stream 2 question in that? And Putin was like, well, I think you guys did it. And Tucker was like, in that nervous reaction, I think you were mentioning
no,
before.
not me.
He was like, no, I have an alibi. It's like, what the fucking Christ? Oh my God.
I think that was Tucker trying to be funny, and he just bombed.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I'm not surprised he bombed. He's not a comedian.
He's not actually, I saw Tucker Carlson on Theo Vaughn's podcast. Tucker used to do cocaine.
He looks like a guy who used to do cocaine.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, what, in like the 90s?
I think he said his college years.
Probably. When the fuck? How old is Tucker Carlson? He's in his 50s, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he dyes his hair? Because I think he dyes his hair.
Nah, I think he's just a healthy individual. He's been sober for a long time. That's what he said.
I mean, I believe he's been sober, sure. I mean, he kind of acts like the guy who's been sober for a long time. But this hair, I mean, I don't see a lick of gray in it, and it's pretty brown. And how old is he?
No, I think it's... Oh, you're right.
He's 54 years old, and there is not a speck of gray in that hair.
You know what? Yeah, you're probably... Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he dyes his hair.
Yeah,
he's a TV personality.
Yeah,
of course he dyes his hair.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. You're right. Never mind. Imagine if, like, Putin came out in the next interview and he just dyed his hair.
Better yet, he had a hairpiece on.
To end things off, I have a story from Russia. So
hasn't that been what we talked about?
No. But this is like pop. Well, yeah, we've been only talking about
Russia for most of this conversation. I mean, that interview took place in Russia.
Yeah.
So I guess it was technically from Russia.
So
with love.
I think a couple weeks ago or during New Year's, there was a party in Moscow.
Are you talking about the naked party?
The almost naked party.
Yeah, the almost naked party. I remember seeing about that.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a almost naked party hosted by this celebrity. I think it was Anastasia. I forget her name, but it's something like that. Hosted at this club who is well known to be like LGBT friendly in Russia, mind you. It's not the same as in America. But anyway... before the war started, no one really cared. But because the war started, there has been an active purge, I suppose, of all LGBTQ ideas and like symbolisms in Russia. That's been happening for a long time.
Oh, it's more than just active like persecution. I mean, they passed a law like maybe a year or two ago, making it essentially saying that like LGBT activism and organizations are essentially like Western propaganda.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, right? So they did the party, and like the celebrities and I guess media in Russia, made fun of them, demonized them,
called them dirty hedonists.
Everything. So the repercussions from them hosting the party have been pretty interesting. One of the celebrities that was there, I think his outfit was, he was pretty much naked and just wore a sock on his dick. That was his outfit. I think he's getting conscripted into the Russian army.
Do you think he'll his uniform will just be a sock?
No, he said I think he's happy to join.
Oh, is he?
He has to say that.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I don't think he's really happy to say that.
And like other celebrities, have been doing the rounds of like philanthropy. Like they've been like spending money and sending money to like different orgs throughout Russia.
Probably more conservative organizations that are anti what they were doing.
Yeah, or some interesting ones. Like I think one of the celebrities went to a town, a city, and like they gave money to like their animal shelters. So it's interesting stuff like that. But like it's interesting that the government is like, hey, you celebrities that did this, you guys all have to pay now. You all guys have to be propaganda for us.
Yeah. Or go to jail.
Or go to jail.
Or be like that other guy and be sent to the front lines.
You're going to go to the fucking front lines.
Yeah. Hey, you're going to go get chased by drones now.
Dude. That's fucked. It's fucked, man. Because, like...
How old are you now? You're like 20...
I'm 26.
26? Oh, you still got some time.
It's 30, right?
For selective service?
Yeah.
I think it ends after you turn 28.
Oh. Okay.
I remember when I turned 28 and being like, oh, thank God, I'm out of the draft age. And then realizing, oh, well, if it gets bad enough, they can always raise the draft age.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 32 or something.
No, it's between the ages of 18 and 27, so it's for a decade.
Oh. Okay, U.S. draft age.
But yeah, and it's only applied to men.
Oh, 25 actually. 18 through 25.
Really? They lowered it?
Federal law requires nearly all male U.S. citizens and male immigrants 18 through 25 register with Selective Service.
Well, okay, so they're between the ages of 18 to 25. They must register with the Selective Service. But how long must you be on the Selective Service registry?
Oh, it's 26. It's 26.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Through the age of 26. So when you do turn 27, you're no longer
okay, yeah.
able to be called up. Cool. But also, if you don't sign up for the Selective Service, you don't get to vote.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah. You get certain rights and privileges taken away from you if you don't sign up for the Selective Service, which is rather coercive. And I don't like the Selective. I don't like the draft.
Interesting.
But that's a conversation for another day because I could go on quite the rant.
Yeah, we can go on this for another long time. Yeah, because I remember having to sign some documents when I like did all my licenses and stuff, like, you know, sign up for the draft.
Yeah, like when you're like 18, getting your first like driver's license.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember learning about that and being like, well, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, but I was like, yeah. What am I gonna do?
As was I. I mean,
but immigrants are also have to do this. Like if you do any like documentation with the Fed, you automatically have to sign up.
Mm-hmm. Only us men, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I don't care to be like, oh, women have to sign up too.
No, I don't want women to have to sign up too. I just don't want us to have to sign up. That's as far. For me, it's not a matter of like, oh, there should be equal oppression of the sexes. There should be no oppression of the sexes.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, like when it comes to combat in the modern world, if you're flying drones or taking shots from across a field, I don't think if you have a dick or not matters.
Yeah. I'd be you know what? I'd be a great tactician. I'd be commanding the drone units. Should we
you want to go play some chess after this?
Yeah, I actually do want to play some chess.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's go find a chessboard around here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one in the Pedrosa Center.
All right, we're going to go to the Pedrosa Center and play some chess, and when we get back on the air, I will confirm or deny Yarik's tactical ability. All
right, tune in next episode.
We'll catch you guys next Monday on Tangent Tuesdays.
See you later, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Peace, bitches.